Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Laura Peery, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Hey, Paul, great to be here. I've always wanted to see what the center looked like. So, wow, it's pretty cool.
You're experiencing it right now.
I am shocked.
You have the added benefit of actually experiencing the Center of the Universe in your own home.
Yeah.
And by the way, your home is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You have so many cool things in this house. It's hard to fathom all of it.
It is, but it's just so peaceful, and we're on the river, and it's just kind of nirvana for us.
There's something about being near water, right?
Yeah.
Can you describe it? I have a tough time describing it, but I know when I'm near water, I feel better.
Yeah, I mean, I think water has always resonated with me. I used to swim avidly, and those who are listening who can appreciate what water it feels like when you're in it it's kind of like it's almost like you're in outer space or something. It's just really a cool experience, and it's really been a great way for me to kind of escape, get away. It's been very meditative, and then just sort of being on, the water here is live river water, so it's peaceful. It's the base for me. It just grounds me.
Lots of animals too.
Lots of wildlife. I was laughing with you earlier about how we have all these pets. Well, we have wild Canadian geese, we have mallards, we have eagles, buzzards, fox.
Buzzards I'm not a fan of.
No.
Everything else you said.
Pileated woodpeckers.
I don't even know what that means.
Man, they look cute. They're prehistoric looking.
Oh wow.
They only they're probably coming out in a couple weeks.
Huh.
So we have a fox. It's really nice.
All right, I'm going to come back to swimming here in a second, but we should mention at the beginning, we connected through Debra Hall. How do you and Debra know each other?
Debra and I just randomly met each other when she gave me a call one day. She and her daughter had bought a house, and they wanted to flip it, and they were sort of trying out this mother-daughter flipping thing, and I think she just found my name somewhere and called me and asked me if I wanted to help sell it because I'm a realtor. And I was like, sure. I had no idea who she was or where it was, but that was several years ago. And Steve and Debra have just become really fun friends.
Y'all are pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of great, right?
It's fantastic. I mean, I come to their parties, they come to my parties. Steve is fantastic.
Without getting Steve or Debra into trouble, can you describe one of their parties?
There's usually a lot of homemade peach
Stuff.
drink, and Debra's very calm and quiet, and Steve is the opposite.
Yeah, they're opposites. They
very
are
very opposite.
I mean, I don't know. They probably have some similarities, but it's hard to find those similarities because they're different people. Yeah. But they're very compatible.
Absolutely.
They love being around each other. You can tell.
Yeah.
All right, swimming. Let me just say, swimming for me, it seems unnatural to want to be underwater where you can't breathe. Mm-hmm. And so I never gravitated. I'm capable of swimming, but it doesn't have the same sort of allure that it seems to have for you. So it's like being in outer space, and that for you is comforting?
Right. I mean, I think you just have to, I've heard people who are like you who just can't get the breath work right, but if you can get it rhythmically, and it becomes very meditative. And I started swimming when I was pregnant with my first child, and
that's when you started.
That's when I started.
So
just
you weren't
as a hobby.
kid. You weren't a kid.
No,
doing it. Okay.
It was always just recreational. And so that was, he's 35 now, so that's when I kind of got into it and just swam I was always the top swimmer at the club competition, etc.
Oh, you competed as an adult?
No, just like they had a polar bear club.
Oh, gotcha.
Where you swam all year round. And so I did that for years. And then in 2015, coming up from one of my morning swims, I got struck by a car. And just walking across the drive.
Oh, my gosh.
In the club parking lot. So I know, I didn't tell you that one.
No, you didn't.
So I got struck by a car. Had a backpack on, and it was April Fool's Day, actually. I had my backpack on with my swim gear, had just finished swimming, got struck, fell backwards, so the backpack protected me, but then I had whiplash, and my head hit the ground and cracked open, and
So you had a skull fracture. Mm-hmm. So the car didn't see you? How does the car not see you?
It's a good question. They were just turning. I mean, it was not a fast hit. I mean, he was turning from his parking lot onto the main drag, and he just didn't see me crossing.
Fast enough to crack your skull, right?
Well, my head hit hard enough to crack my skull.
On asphalt. Mm-hmm. That had to be scary. Did it knock you
Mm-hmm.
out?
No, not really. I mean, I had a lot of blood, went to, the hospital, had stitches, and basically had several years of all kinds of medical appointments and rehab because, I've got neck injuries, had a mild TBI, just
You definitely had TBI from that, yeah.
whole bunch of stuff. Took years and years and years to sort of get me, as improved as I am. And I am, most people don't really know that I struggle, but that is something that I tell that story because that's sort of when my regular swimming stopped, which was a whole nother thing because it was such a part of my daily life, my social interactions, sort of my the way I managed stress. I had 3 young children.
It's part of your daily routine.
Yeah, a big part. And so, I've over the years tried to go back. I can't swim like I used to. I'd have to adapt.
Is it because of the TBI?
Because of the neck injury. So I was just sort of a freestyle swimmer, and I'm not able to do that as well.
You had to be able to turn your head pretty severely.
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it was just that's where I am.
Well, so I have guys that I've known from the Army that have pretty severe TBI, and it's scary. It's frightening to think of people that suffer from pretty serious memory loss. Do you struggle with memory today?
Yes.
Yeah, that stinks.
It stinks. Yeah, big, mostly short-term memory loss.
Yeah.
So, but got a lot of compensatory strategies, and one of my doctors one time said, it's sometimes harder for somebody who's as high functioning as I am to, deal with not being as functional as I was as compared to somebody who had a much serious dysfunctional injury, if that makes sense, who can't recover.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just what happened.
But
April Fool's Day.
You've been getting better though since the accident.
Right. Oh yeah, it was however many years ago, 2015. So 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you fracture a skull, how does it heal? Is there anything anybody does to help it heal, or is it just heals on its own?
Just got stitches and had a hematoma that just got better, and
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was really lucky, right? Because I could have hit just a little bit over one way and been paralyzed or whatever. So
if you didn't have the backpack, who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still.
So it's good. Yeah.
Still a bummer.
It was a bummer.
All right, let's start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up mostly came to Richmond when I was about 6 or 7, but born in San Francisco. My dad was in the Army.
That's right.
Yes. And so I was an Army brat for those first 6 years. We lived in San Francisco, then we moved to Okinawa, then we moved to Heidelberg, Germany, and then landed in Richmond in the late 60s.
Do you have memories from all those places?
I do have memories.
All right, favorite memory from San Fran?
Favorite or like...
Whatever.
Well, San Fran, I'm not sure because I was 18. I left when I was 18 months.
So maybe not a great story.
Yeah,
for them.
Okinawa would be a good one.
All right, let's go with Okinawa.
Okay. And I just saw my sister the other day, and she reminded me of Kiko, who took care of us when my parents traveled, which was all the time, and how Kiko was not as nice as she pretended to be in front of my parents when they came home.
She was a strict disciplinarian, but put off a different vibe when your parents
when my parents got home. She'd be like, "The children were good. The children were fine." But no, one thing about living on an island, we had those flying cockroaches, palmetto bugs, and then we also had the big typhoons, the windstorms. And so I was like 2 to 3 years old, 3 to 4, something like that, when those were happening. So I developed a strong fear of the wind. And then when we moved to Germany, after that, my sister has stories of me walking home, her walking me home from school, and the wind would pick up, and she'd be going, "Oh my gosh, I just hope I can get Laura home, before the wind kicks up," because I would freeze and scream and
Really?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I had a big fear of the wind, which I have since had no problem with the exception of last week. There was a really bad windstorm, and since we live on the water, in the middle of the night, it kept on going, and I woke up and I was just thinking, okay, Laura, it's okay. You're not in Okinawa. You're not 3 years old, but my brain had a little bit of a hiccup remembering.
I mean, I'm not trying to be anything other than accurate. It's a mild form of PTSD, probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. But so, it's not irrational now. You
no. I mean, I am no wind, no. But like bugs, I really don't like them. I don't like surprises. Do you?
So no surprise parties for you.
Well, I mean, back to the PTSD stuff. If you think about how, and I don't know if I told you this when we can talk about it later, but before being a realtor, I was a therapist with behavioral health and worked with military guys with PTSD.
Yeah.
And so
you know what you're talking about.
Very familiar with it, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember in my training, and I can totally apply it to me now from my experiences, that that PTSD, those experiences sort of compound on each other, and so it's not like they really ever go away. They just sort of add, and then some people, it's one event that has them not be able to, cope. Sometimes it's not till the fourth event when, there's a moment of not being able to handle it.
It's sort of this building storm that you don't see coming. Exactly.
And so everybody is capable of a different level of quote, handling it.
Kind of scary.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Unpredictable.
Is that what you did right after school?
No, right after school I got married.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm going to try to stay loosely chronological. All right. So wind in Germany is probably like wind in Virginia. Like it's a thunderstorm could come through with wind, but you're not getting hurricanes or typhoons or anything like that in Germany. And how old were you in Germany?
I think it was like 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. And you were in Heidelberg. I don't know anything about Heidelberg.
Heidelberg.
Is it a typical German town?
Well, here's another story. So my parents thought, because my sister was 5 years older, and I was just going to kindergarten when I was there, and they thought, oh, it's going to be great. Laura, we'll just send her to the German school, and then she'll be bilingual. Great opportunity. So Teresa, my sister, goes to the American school, and they send me off to the German school.
Because you're young, and kids can pick up languages. German, right? Yeah.
And Mom tells the story about getting, a call from the teacher, the German teacher, about like there must be a problem with me because of being so scared of the wind. I would freak out, not knowing about my, problem with it. And plus, I didn't have any idea I didn't know what they were talking about. They did not speak English.
And you had mastered German as a 5-year-old.
No. So that was short-lived.
So that immediately took you back to the American school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it might have coincided when my dad decided to get out. He was a doctor in the military, and he just decided to go into private practice, and we moved to Virginia. And
why Virginia?
I don't know why he picked. I mean, he was born in North Carolina. I don't know why he picked Virginia, but he was an orthopedic surgeon and was a practicing doctor here for years.
He was looking around maybe the East Coast, and he liked the Virginia opportunity better. And that landed you in the Richmond area?
Yes.
Okay. And how old were you when you got here?
About 6 or 7.
Okay. And you grew up in the city?
Grew up in the county for a little bit, and then moved to the city when I was about 12.
Okay.
But
what was it like growing up in the city? We're talking...
Well, not the city. I'm in the West End city. So...
No, I understand. It's still a city, though, right?
Right.
Technically, city of Richmond. I don't mean downtown.
No, I wasn't downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really know any difference because it's not like I ever lived in a rural area, like coming in from the farm and then I'm all of a sudden in the city. I mean, I've sort of...
But it wasn't the burbs either where you grew up. Not back then.
No. I mean, it was just... I mean, one thing is that I went to private school, but I didn't go to the private school in my neighborhood. I went to the one that was 20 minutes away. And so all of the neighbors went to the close one, and I, would go to the other school. So that was different.
What were the names of these two schools?
I went to Collegiate,
right,
which is in the county, private school. And then the others were St. Catherine's and St. Christopher's, which is, I know where you went.
Yeah. And so I don't understand why somebody who's so close to St. Catherine and St. Christopher's would go out to Collegiate. Was it your choice or was it your parents' choice?
I think it was my parents' choice.
Yeah. Did they ever tell you their rationale?
No.
And you never asked?
Never asked, because guess what? I'm pretty happy.
No, that's great. Well, and Collegiate, you tell me if I'm wrong here. I think they technically had a boys' school and girls' school, but you guys were essentially integrated even back then, right?
Right. Lower school was together.
Okay.
Then in middle school we were separate, and then in high school for some things we came back together.
Yeah.
So they called it coordinate education.
Okay.
Oh, I have here's a good story, since you like stories.
I love stories.
Because I just said this the other day.
It's in the name of the podcast.
Oh, good. Yeah. So my current assistant is, we went to a listing appointment the other day, and she was taking notes, and the person said, "Oh, did you go to St. Catherine's?" To my assistant, because you're printing, like writing and printing, Liz says, "No, I went to wherever she went, not in Richmond." But then it made me remember about when I learned to write at Collegiate, and I distinctly remember it was like whenever it is, second or third grade, when you're starting penmanship, and the girls were taught connective printing, and the boys were taught cursive. And I did ask about why for that, and the reason, guess what the reason was?
I have no idea.
Oh, come on.
No, I grew up co-ed through 7th grade, and we all learned cursive.
Right.
I have no idea. I've never seen connective print, I don't think.
Well, you're younger than I am. But the reason was the girls write the thank you notes and the boys write the checks.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that perfect?
I mean, you're being accurate, but for back then, right?
Well, I'm not saying I'm that old. I think back then it was an old thing in the 50s maybe, and then it just was tradition that kept on. It probably changed
in the
soon
80s,
after.
in the 80s, probably.
Whenever.
Yeah.
But
wow. Mm-hmm. And checks did, I guess back then you did have to write in cursive.
Well,
and I'm old enough where I wrote all my checks out in cursive. Mm-hmm. But you can print them now. On the rare occasion you even fill out a check.
Some people I talk to now don't even know what a check is. That's a whole nother story.
Which is weird. I think my wife wants me to still write checks because it's reminiscent of when we were a lot younger. So, I don't know. She's like, I write a check for this one. I'm like, we can take care of that one online. No, I just write a check. I'm like, okay. Yeah, that's a great story. I love that story. Mm-hmm. All right, Collegiate from what, 2nd grade you said?
Yeah, came to Collegiate. It goes from kindergarten, but I came in 2nd grade and then graduated.
And did you feel like you integrated pretty easily at Collegiate?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I guess when you're that young, it's pretty easy to integrate. And the interesting thing about being integrated for lower school, which public schools would say are elementary schools, and then separated, and I guess that's when the raging hormones are happening.
That's the rationale. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I guess, but the hormonal puberty thing isn't over by your freshman year.
No, and we didn't fully integrate in 9th grade. We would just have lunch together, and maybe some, like if you were in advanced science or math, you might be in a class that's co-ed.
Right, because there's only going to be one teacher that did that, and so why not bring them together? It's funny. I went through all male 8th through 12th grade, and I who knows, but I think there's some socialization that should happen with teenagers, and they should be with the opposite sex. But not my high school. I think I had 2 classes with young ladies back then.
Right. I think it's important to know about how boys and how girls interact and operate. I mean, I believe they should be together.
Yeah. And I think maybe you're stunting that understanding. Maybe eventually
the socialization
you get there.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. All right. I asked you this when we chatted a couple weeks ago, but what would you say you're known for? Or maybe it's a lot of things you're known for.
In high school?
Yeah.
I like to have a good time. And probably laughing. I mean, I was okay. I don't know.
You like to laugh.
I like to laugh.
A little mischief maybe mixed in there.
Yeah, but good mischief.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was just silly. Like we rode our bicycles through the library one day. That kind of bad.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
Did you get in a lot of trouble for that?
Yeah.
Like suspended trouble?
No, just a couple demerits.
How many? You and how many other people?
Well, we had a big plan. It was probably 5 of us. So
it's a lot of bikes in a library.
Yeah.
Was it easy to maneuver in the library?
It was a well thought out plan. Like it really was, because it started. Remember, I told you I lived in the city,
Right.
So there was another girlfriend who lived even farther east than I. So that girl started. She picked me up, and then we rode our bikes to the next person and the next person. As we got closer and closer to Collegiate, it's
a pretty long bike ride, though.
Yeah,
Pretty dangerous, too.
Well, we went through University of Richmond. We didn't go on the main roads,
Okay.
But it was this whole thing, and then we did, culminated with riding our bikes through the library. I haven't thought about that in years.
Were you the leader of? Whose idea was it?
It probably was mine.
You were sort of the leader of having
Of ideas, maybe.
of a good time and a little bit of mischief. You mentioned demerits. Do you remember how many demerits you got? Was it a weekly sort of thing, and then you'd have to spend like a Friday night at school?
Or afternoons. I mean, I think I got a demerit for chewing gum one time. I didn't get that many demerits.
You weren't like the leader of
No.
demerits.
I was the good kind of bad.
Yeah. They laughed. The adults probably laughed at it.
Exactly.
But
they couldn't.
They had to do something.
Right.
Otherwise, it would be chaos in the library.
Exactly.
Are there other stories from high school like that?
Well, I'm trying to, now that you've tapped that, I don't know. I might remember one, but I can't right now.
All right on. Sports?
I just did like intramural sports.
Okay.
I did, I think I did cheerleading like in 9th grade, but then the rest of the high school career I did, it's called Pep Club.
Okay.
It was sort of like not a cheerleader, but a spirited person.
Spirited for all
just for sports
Okay.
and games and stuff.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's called Pep Club.
And that was something you did with your friends, probably.
Yeah, you got tapped into it, but I was like head of it. I mean, again.
Oh, you had to be invited.
Yeah, you're there because you're spirited. I mean, I laughed and had fun.
You had to be selected.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, tap's a fun word. I heard that word a lot in college. I imagine you did too. I have a feeling there's some off recording stuff that maybe we could talk about. All right. So when did you start worrying about going to college? When did you start thinking about it?
Oh, probably my whole life. I mean.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't think I wasn't going to go to college.
Specifically, which colleges started entering your mind as you were in high school? Did you have your heart set on any particular school?
Mm-mm. I ended up going. Why did I? I went to Sweetbriar College for 2 years, and I think it was just kind of like this decision that seemed to make sense because I'd gone to a small school and I didn't really want to go to a big university, and I applied, early decision, and I got in. I mean, it really wasn't a lot of strategy or thought around it at all.
And it's an all-girls school back then. It still is, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think it's like one of two left in the state, maybe. But then you transferred to arguably the best university ever known
in the universe
to man. Sure, yeah. Did you start thinking about transferring at some point? And you're like, hey, I want to go to that particular place?
I did. After about a year at Sweetbriar, I just couldn't imagine myself being there for 4 years just because it was just too small.
And you're kind of in the middle of nowhere too.
Yeah.
No, I mean.
No, I took advantage of that. I mean, we always would go to the fraternities over the hill to Washington Lee and.
Oh, because it's not very far. Yeah, Washington. Yeah, that's a weird part of town and a weird time because you had two all-male schools, one liberal arts and one military,
right.
And they're right next to each other. I don't know the history there, and since neither one of us went to either one of those schools, we probably don't care to know too much of that history. But it's a weird little. I can't think of any other place in the country that has that sort of setup. And you were right over the hill from that. Yeah. All right. Why UVA?
I think it was just because it was a state school. At the time, my parents were getting divorced, or actually, I think they separated when I was like 14 or 15. So they'd already been divorced, but I think my father was just, wanting to not pay so much tuition because Sweetbriar is pretty expensive back in the day.
And UVA was not at all
no.
back then.
And so I was fine with it. so I transferred in my third year
And
loved it.
And you were like the women were first allowed into UVA, I think, in the mid '70s, and so you were pretty early on. The ratio of men to women was what, 3-1, probably, when you went there.
Yeah, I mean, I went there in '82.
Yeah, and you all right. Tell the story about a basketball player from UVA. I love this story.
Oh gosh. All right, so I met these girls that we just became great friends, and we ended up rooming together senior year at this house on, I think it was on Grady Avenue. That it was a white frame house, and we called it the Shady Rest because of that old school show that was called Petticoat Junction.
Okay.
And anyway, so it was this, so we lived upstairs, and so one of my roommates, Annie, she dated Doug Newberg, who was on the UVA basketball team, and then they ended up getting married, and I was asked to be in the wedding, and one of the bridesmaids, and because I was the tallest bridesmaid, I was paired with the tallest groomsman, who was Ralph Sampson. And
you are how tall?
I'm 5'7".
That would make Ralph 21 inches taller than you. That's crazy, right?
It was crazy.
I guess when Ralph walks around, he doesn't think about how tall he is all the time. I mean, he has to in some cases because he can't walk through door thresholds. But everybody else definitely knows, like, my gosh, there's a 7'4" guy over there.
Exactly.
It's great. Nice guy?
Yeah. Nice guy. That was a fun wedding.
I do have to share my Doug Newberg connection.
Okay.
So, and I shared it with you earlier, but the listening audience has never heard this in the 270 some episodes I've done. Doug, I think, was the same year as you guys. Y'all were all the same year in school?
He was either, I can't remember, maybe a year older. But anyway.
But Doug spent a lot of time on the bench, and when UVA was crushing another team, or maybe getting crushed on occasion, which didn't happen a ton when Ralph was there, maybe it never happened, Doug would come in and just throw up 30-foot jump shots, and he was kind of known for it. Like, hey, they wanted to get a lead so people could watch Doug throw up these ridiculous shots. And he would make a fair amount of them. Well, Doug, fast forward a few years, Doug is teaching a 1-credit basketball class. And when I went to UVA, you could get a credit for some sport. And I'm like, well, I love basketball. This is why would I pass this up? I'm going to do it. Well, Doug was the coach. I got stitches because a guy headbutted me during a game, and Doug Newberg took me to the hospital, which Doug didn't have to do that. He could have just walked away like, hey, kid, you're on your own. But I think he stayed with me through the entire thing.
Yeah.
Doug is a good guy.
Yeah,
he was certainly a good guy back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, small world kind of stuff there.
Definitely.
What did you study at UVA?
Psychology.
Okay. And what did you want to do with that?
I got my MRS.
Oh, man. My daughter, my middle kid, said the other day that, hey, not the other day, it was probably a few months ago. This is a child from the age of like 9 or 10 said, I want to be a lawyer. And then she says a few weeks ago, I think I'm just going to find a rich guy and get married. I'm like, I guess that's a plan. I don't think I raised you to think that way. But I mean, you're your own person. Mm-hmm. She's very strong-willed and is going to do whatever she's going to do. But yeah. So you got your MRS.
I did.
Is there a piece of paper that comes with that? No. I guess the wedding or marriage certificate.
Exactly.
I think.
Blair.
Yeah, and he turned around.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Let's pause.
So we just got engaged this past January on my birthday. We've been together for 16 years, something like that. Had talked about marriage through the years, but never, for one reason or other, did it. And then.
So you figured it was off the table?
Yeah, I just figured, we're life partners. We just bought this house together. Why get married? We've all had, we love each other. We're going to be together forever. So I just thought it was sort of off the table. And then on my birthday, we have this sort of tradition of having coffee, like coffee in bed together every day. And on weekends, we give ourselves a treat to have those Trader Joe's shortbread cookies with the chocolate on them. I don't know if you've ever had them, but they're these
Great traditions. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's just our little treat we have.
Yeah.
So he brings them up normal. They're 4 cookies, 2 for each, and then we're talking and eating, and then the fourth he planned it so the fourth cookie would be the one I would take, and I pick it up, and he's got this fishing line or string or whatever attached to it, and there's a matchstick, and then this ring, but it's wrapped in tissue, so you can see it's a ring, but it's all wrapped in tissue. And so it was clear that it was a ring. I just didn't know what it was. So anyway.
And y'all are in bed together. Just
having our coffee thing. And I was just thinking it's my last cookie. No idea. And I was shocked. I couldn't even speak. And I kind of started nervous laughing because I just didn't know. I was totally shocked. And he just said, there's a joke about me telling my family that I was going to set the world on fire with my work. And last year, and he's the reason for the matchstick. He said, well, how would you like to really set the world on fire? So asked me to marry him. He picked out this ring all by himself. I was shocked, and I've told him, and I've told other people, like, if I had 100 rings to look at, I probably would have picked the same one. Yeah. So I just, it was very exciting, and we're going to get married.
He pays attention.
Yeah, he does. He actually, that's a good description.
Yeah.
He really does pay attention. So we're going to get married in June outside, hopefully, on the water with our family.
Pretty exciting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So you had gone how many years thinking the marriage was off the table? Probably 8 or 10. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What a shock. Shock of your life.
Shock of my life.
Yeah, and the best kind of shock.
The best kind of shock.
How long did you not respond and giggle before you actually gave him an answer?
I think, probably in my head, our whole tenure together flashed through. It was just kind of like maybe all the milestones what I thought we would, It probably took about 5 minutes until I could really just process what was actually going on.
Wow, because he surprised you that much. And you don't like surprises. We've established that. But
exactly.
Did you not? But you like that one.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's the best kind.
Yep. That was smart.
That's awesome. How did you guys meet?
We met because my jet ski broke down in front of his house, down at in the Northern Neck.
Lucky for both of you.
Yeah, he was saved. He's in my knight in shining armor then, and he is now.
Did he ask you out that day?
No. He was just building a house down there, and he was up on the roof, working on it.
When you guys parted ways that day, was there a way for you guys to reconnect, or was it going to be happenstance?
Oh no, we were just friends. We became friends. We had a house in a similar neighborhood, and but yeah, I mean, it was just really funny. He jokes that he purposely threw a stick out there in the river for my jet ski to break. But so anyway, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so back to UVA.
Yes.
And I can't wait to talk to Blair too. But UVA, psychology, and I think when Blair arrived, we were talking about why psychology, and you were about to say...
I had no plans. I got married.
That's right. You said MRS. MRS, and so that was pretty quick. Was that common back then? And I'm not trying to make you like 100 years old to me. We're the same generation. I think we're similar.
There have been several times you've said, and back then they didn't have women at UVA, and back then
well,
they didn't have checks.
I'm not going to say what generation you're in, even though I technically know which generation you're in. But I think things had changed from the time you were there to the time I was
significantly.
there.
Significantly. Absolutely.
I'm not trying to make you feel any older.
No. That's okay. But what was the question? Oh yeah, about so back to the Sweetbriar story. One of the reasons, now that you've got me in that memory, one of the reasons I definitely, besides the financial piece of UVA being so much less expensive, was that I had started dating a guy who became my husband, who was 6 years older than I, and he.
Oh wow.
So he had recently had a short marriage, got divorced, and anyway, it's another long story. But he ended up deciding he was going to go to Darden School of Business, And it was going to coincide the 2 years I would be at UVA undergraduate. So he, so that was a motivation for me to just like, okay, yeah. So I was undergraduate 2 years. He was graduate 2 years. We got engaged my fourth year, like in December of my fourth year at UVA, and we got married that next September.
Were your friends getting married around that same time?
No, I mean, I was probably the first or second, maybe the second friend to get married.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm now mindful of saying back then.
Well, I know. Well, you're the one that just told me you told your wife you would not get married before you were 30.
That's true.
So I was 22, but that was back then. Things were different back then.
I avoided saying it that time, but I would have easily said it if you had called me on it. Yeah, I think that's true. At some point from when you got married to when I was that age, when I was last year at UVA, I think the idea was most people would wait until they were decently into their 20s before.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm saying is you were on the cusp of when that change sort of happened.
Probably so.
Yeah, because my parents, and you're definitely closer to my age than you are to my parents' age, they couldn't wait. Like, it was like the month after they graduated,
right.
They're like, we're getting married.
Yeah, I sort of was along that old school trend, right?
Yeah, it was just sort of a normalish kind of thing for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna avoid all back then opportunities for me. All right, so you get married, and are you working too, or are you?
I was like working at the stationery shop in town. Nothing having to do with advanced education or my degree.
Did you ever use you did use your degree?
I did later. Yeah. So we were married, and after we got married, I was 22. At 26, I had my first child, and I was just, having babies every couple years.
You were a mom for a while.
Yeah, a mom.
Yeah.
And did some part-time stuff, but nothing really significant.
Did you go back to work full time once the kids were kind of out of the house?
Well, when the youngest one was like full on in like the preschool or whatever, I decided to go. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I found this career called music therapy. That it was kind of, I think it had been around a while, but I just had heard about it and decided that I wanted to pursue being a music therapist.
Are you musical?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't believe I didn't catch that before, or did we explore that? So how are you musical? Did you?
Well, I mean, I'm not like performance quality musical.
So no instruments?
No, I mean, I had to have an instrument I was proficient in, which was guitar.
Okay.
But going and getting credentialed to be a music therapist, my strong suit was the therapy part. I've always been, I had the undergraduate degree in psychology, but my personality has always been very much of a listener and a fixer, or just therapy, help people. Yeah, always wanted to help people.
Yeah.
But in order to get the music therapy degree, I had to get the music piece. So I had this really great professor, or she was an advisor. I don't even know how I met her. Her name was Sandra Gerard. She was at VCU. Told her my story, how, my children were grown. I really was interested in music therapy. At that time, if I had gone to college to be a music therapist, they had 4-year or 5-year programs to do that. But if I had known about music therapy when I was in school, it wouldn't have been a program. So anyway, ended up, she believed in me, and she got my records from, a decade prior from UVA, worked really hard to get most of those credits to transfer. I ended up taking music in the School of Music classes to get the music piece, and then went to Shenandoah Conservatory for 1.5 years to get the actual music therapy credentialing. So I was very overeducated to get the degree I got, but that's the path I took.
Well, Shenandoah is really known for the arts and music and acting, I think, in particular. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you first started playing guitar?
Oh, I just started to
You said I want to do music therapy, and I don't play an instrument right now.
Correct.
Wow. And so you were
I mean, I knew how to play. I took piano. I mean, but I wouldn't say I was able to play the piano, like play me a song, but I know how to read music, let's say.
Okay. And so playing a guitar, were you...
It's really hard.
Playing chords mostly, or... Okay.
Yeah, I took guitar lessons, and, then I went to, I have a BA in music from VCU, so I did all the theory and, just all the music type classes. Yeah. I'm sitting in the actual, I can't even remember what they were called, where you're having to, like, play in front of the master's classes or whatever they are. All the people are so proficient. They're all musicians, and there's me, and I'm like, 15 years older than all of them as well. But, it was a fun experience.
But you're not afraid. You
No.
clearly were not afraid.
No.
You were proficient enough to be a good therapist.
Yes.
In music
Using
therapy.
music, yep.
Well, so if I come to you and let's say I have, I'm depression, is that a good example?
Sure.
I'm depressed. How does music therapy help me potentially through you specifically?
Right. Well, so music therapy is just sort of like any other type of psychotherapy or therapy you might go to. It's just you use music sort of as a catalyst for catharsis, right?
Okay.
So instead of us talking about like, oh, tell me about the depression, and okay, and then are you what happened in your life, or what just like a psychotherapist would do, I would use music to help you maybe express or have catharsis about something. So maybe we would maybe there's a song that you really relate to, but you're not it really resonates with you, and maybe that song tells your story that you're not able to verbalize yet, as an example. Sure. Right? And so we might kind of use that to tease it through, or we might just do something really improvisational to express feelings, and through that I might be able to intone whether or not you're like holding on to things or needing to let go. Or sometimes through, like when I worked with the military guys, we would do so much drumming, and the amount of release that provided them was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Powerful. I mean, how many of us listening know, like you just play that one song and it puts you in whatever the mood it's going to put you in, whether you have it match your feelings or have it make you forget your feelings, right? Music's super powerful.
And you grew up as a lover of music as a kid?
Yeah, very musical, like singing family. At Collegiate, I was in the theater, and we're just always kind of singing.
Yeah, that's a fun family to grow up in. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the family sang?
Well, I mean, I would say yes, sing. Not my mother. She thinks she can sing, but she doesn't carry a good pitch. But I would say it's just jovial. My dad always was singing. We'd sing musicals. It's just.
So you were in plays as a kid. Mm-hmm. Did you ever get the lead?
I was often shadowed by the other person who always got the lead.
You were second fiddle.
Usually.
Yeah. Never had the lead?
No, I mean I was the tramp in Godspell.
Okay. I don't remember Godspell. I'm positive I saw it, but.
No, I would have. I mean, I would not oftentimes not have the lead. I tried though.
Were you ever in a production of The Sound of Music?
No. But I can sing all the songs.
I was Friedrich.
So Long Farewell.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if you remember, his voice cracks.
Yes.
I had to mimic that. And I had no problem mimicking that because I was I was actually really young to be playing Friedrich. And so I had a really high pitched part there. And I haven't lived that down since, actually. And so I know what it's like to be second fiddle. Actually, I know what it's like to be like 12th fiddle. So I go from Friedrich, my first play, second play ever, and I didn't do any plays after this. I was going for Oliver and Oliver Twist.
Oh, wow. And
the other boy in Sound of Music got the Oliver Twist part, and I was Orphan 27 or whatever I was. Yeah. And then my career was over. Sounds like you did a lot more of it than I did.
Yeah.
And you really enjoyed it.
Really did. Mm-hmm.
Did you pass that on to your kids?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So my son Camp is he didn't do theater, but I got him a drum kit when he was 10, so he was a drummer. And
did that drive you crazy at times?
No, because I knew where he was. And we had a basement, so band practice was always at our house because I had the basement and he was the drummer. And he was in bands through high school and even through college.
Yeah. He really enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed it. He's actually a really good drummer. And then my middle daughter did theater, but she really liked sort of the stage manager type role. She did a lot of the backstage stuff. And then my third daughter did bit plays. And actually, she's in Denver now, and she does community theater sometimes.
So the bug got all three of them?
Yeah.
And so you kind of you passed that sort of tradition on to your kids. That's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Mental health with the military. Is there a lot more you think we need to do for those guys? I know you don't do that these days because you're in real estate, but I don't know. You hear the stats about 22 guys take their own lives I think it's every day, which is a staggering number when you think about that. Now, you could also take other parts of the population and maybe have horrible stats like that as well. But as a military guy myself, I'd love to say there's 2 or 3 magic answers out there, but there really aren't. Each situation's different. I imagine you just have to do your best to try to figure out how to help them. But I imagine you have some success stories from your time doing that.
Yeah, I mean, but I worked at a behavioral health hospital for 15 years that had, served garden variety mental health. So I worked with kids, at-risk kids. I worked with kids who were sex offenders. I worked with acute, psychotic patients. I work with regular adult patients. And then somewhere maybe 7 years into my tenure there, they built a military unit because it was such a need for particularly, the OAF and OIF, people like 2005, 6, 7, that initial push. Yeah. This was after that, but that was sort of a result of it. So they built a great military wing, and they just sort of plucked the best of the best from all the departments to form the team. And I was put strictly on that unit.
And you could see guys improving over time?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of the whole activity therapy piece for them. And I started a program basically using exposure therapy to help reintegrate them, to doing normal stuff. Because, one of the horrible things about PTSD is it totally makes you not want to do anything with your family or go anywhere, and you want to be isolative, right? And so, these guys and gals would come, and many of their marriages were on the rocks, or their families or whatever. And so part of it was just sort of teaching, getting them out in the community, just doing normal things so that you could, like we would drive to the movies, in the van in the highway, and if they saw like a plastic bag on the side of the road, they'd freak out, right? Yeah. Things like that, right? Yeah. So, and the whole point of exposure therapy is you just want to keep on diluting the trigger. So, because your brain is like, plastic bag, bomb, alert, so, but the more times you just desensitize your brain, basically, the more times. So, yeah, it was great seeing some improvement.
Yeah, doing that for you had to be hard too, right? Because you're hearing tough stories and you're seeing people really struggle on a constant basis. That has to be tough for the therapist. Was it tough for you?
It was very tough. I mean, particularly when, sitting in a room one day, somebody has this big guy has a flashback. And again, we were doing something expressive. So that's what's so cool about how you can what's so cool and dangerous, how you can just tap into a part of the brain that's very primal. And he just had a flashback, and he pounded his fist in the cinder block wall. Oof. You know what I mean? So, and these are things they really are unable to control. So, it could be scary at times, but I was really surprised that I wouldn't, I was so involved and so into it, but when I walked out that door at night, it just left it there.
Yeah. So you're able to turn it off like that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people probably struggle to turn it off. All right, how did you get into your current profession?
Oh, goodness. So I'd been working at the hospital for so many years, really just, doing it to help people. I was making no money. That didn't matter to me. I was in the trenches saving the world.
Yeah. You were doing good work.
Yeah.
You were doing important work.
Yeah. And then started dating Blair. And at the time he was up in Arlington. And, you know, the hospital was, I just saw them not really caring that much about, it was kind of like the division between like the people in the high office and boots on the ground, you know, like they were just numbers oriented.
They're administrators. Yeah.
Not really understanding what was going on in the units. And so, you know, the numbers weren't working, so they'd have mandatory PTO for some of the mental health workers who, you know, they have to have these jobs. And so I was like, well, I just don't agree with this, so I quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't handle the divide and the lack of care to, you know, take care of the people that work for them.
It's stunning, right?
It's stunning.
And it's ironic, right? The whole premise of that organization is to care and support other people, and they couldn't even do it inside their own organization.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm going to quit because I don't believe in this, and I feel like I've, you know, saved the world. I've done with that. Dating Blair, I'll be more flexible because we were long distance. And then my mother, who never understood why I wanted to not make a lot of money and that I wanted to save the world, said, oh, well, now that you're not working, why don't you go into real estate? Because she was in real estate in the 80s for a bit of time and was very successful and just always wanted me to do it. And I never wanted to because I wanted to save the world. And so I just, you know, I think I can't remember, it was like 50, I've been doing real estate maybe 11 years, so it was however long ago. And I've just found myself, like, as a little girl, like, doing what my mommy wanted me to do, you know, at this 50 years old, which is it's amazing how you can just regress back. So I was like, and my sister convinced me, she said, Laura, look, just do it. You know, at the very least, you can sell your house when you sell it and mom's house when she sells it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. So I just did it thinking I was going to be part-time and kind of, you know, okay, I can tell mom I did it. And, which makes me laugh right now because, and I tell my mom this all the time, she's still alive. I mean, my mother was totally right. I got in, I thought I was going to do it part-time. I thought I wasn't going to really care about it. And I thought it was going to bother me that I could, you know, that I could financially make quite a bit of money, you know, and that just in my brain, it didn't work because it didn't seem like I could help people at the same time, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But what I found was those therapy skills and those like really tough times that I learned how to navigate and mitigate stress have been so helpful for my real estate career.
There's a lot of up and down in real estate, right?
A lot of up and down.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of times it's somebody's most valuable asset. Maybe they're transitioning because of a family breakup or a death or whatever. You know, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of stuff involved in a transaction. And I just find that, you know, that's a superpower of mine to be able to help, you know, mitigate stress.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, saving the world. Are there other parts of your life where you were saving the world?
Oh, gosh.
In small ways or maybe bigger ways?
That's a good question.
That's my first good question this entire conversation.
No, you've had a couple. I wouldn't say saving the world. I mean, I think I've always... and it might be because, you know, my first 3 years of life were spent in another culture. You know, they say that those formative years are really important.
The first 5.
Yeah. And, you know, so I've always just had like a really bigger picture of the world other than where I am. And, you know, Richmond can be pretty, you know, the schools we went to can be pretty, you know,
very tiny,
myopic or type or whatever. Yeah. Right. And so I don't know, I think I'm positive attitude and I can always think bigger than the situation I'm in.
So your daily life is like you're looking for opportunities naturally where you can help, kind of thing, because you're looking out, not looking in.
Right.
Yeah. And whether it's you personally or a small group of people, you're looking out for the larger. universe, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, tell me, we're at 55 minutes. Tell me about your kids.
Oh my goodness. My kids. Okay. So I have 3 children. My oldest is Camp. He's Robert Campbell. We call him Camp, like summer camp. And he works for the Richmond Kickers.
Does he exude that sort of summer camp vibe?
Yeah.
All right, nice. Good name for it.
He's a great kid. So anyway, he's a history major. He went to UVA.
Okay.
But he's a COO of the Richmond Kickers and really enjoys it.
Yeah, that's
He's great. My middle daughter is Madeline, Janet Madeline, named after my mother, Janet.
I'm sure your mother loves that.
Exactly. So she is here in town, and she's 2 years younger, so she's 33, and she got married about a year ago, and she's just hysterical, a great gal.
Is she like you? A lot like you?
I think all of my kids are a lot like me.
Wow.
But my daughters are probably a lot like me, maybe more so.
Yeah.
And then Liza, my youngest, is in Denver.
Okay.
And yeah.
Liza's doing her own thing out in Denver.
Yep, she works for Dropbox.
Okay.
Doing her own thing. She's in Italy right now because she won an awards trip.
So she's good at what she does too.
Yeah.
And they're all healthy, happy, and everything's cool.
They're all great. I'm just really lucky.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that Debra couldn't wait to tell me about you. And I'm very happy to have come out here today to see your beautiful place.
Oh, thank you.
To meet you, to see your amazing view you've got out here. And wish you nothing but the best of luck in June for your wedding. And then all time after today, I wish you nothing but the best.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Thanks so much. So fun to chat with you.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.